Poland daily interview for tonight. Jack Posobiec from the United States, or here in Warsaw, Jacek Posobiec. Welcome to our show.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Really glad to be
Political
here.
analyst from the States. The events this week, we had a meeting in the Paris 100th anniversary of armistice, and Mr. Macron was there, and he said that nationalism is bad, and he said it to Donald Trump.
You know, it's very interesting because I actually went and looked up, I found the Merriam-Webster English Dictionary, and I went to the thesaurus section, and I looked up the word patriotism. And I said the word patriotism, the #1 synonym was nationalism. And I said, Macron, why are you trying to change the definition of words? If people are trying to study English for the first time, maybe you're confusing them now, because patriotism and nationalism, they go hand in hand. And for him to say that it's the opposite of nationalism is patriotism, he's trying to create some sort of tension. He's trying to create some sort of issue where it doesn't exist. But when you look at it from his perspective, from Macron's perspective, he's trying to create an EU that has no borders. He's trying to create an EU that has massive migration, where it's a European government that has total control over the entire continent. So from his perspective, of course he's thinking nationalism is the danger, but not to the people. It's the danger to his globalist sort of ideals.
And Donald Trump is on just the opposite position, because he said that nationalism is okay. There's nothing wrong in loving your own country and taking care of your own greater community.
Exactly. And Donald Trump has said this for every country. He said he supports Chinese nationalism, he supports Japanese nationalism, Mexican nationalism, Canadian nationalism, probably even French nationalism. And look, if France didn't have their nationalism, they would not have made it through those terrible wars.
But it does signal forces that are at the moment in the world.
Yes.
Like two big forces, and Poland and America are on one side, Macron, Merkel, the Dutch guys are on the other. How do you describe this divide?
Well, this divide, you could really describe it as a difference between globalism and nationalism. And globalism is sort of a symptom or a synonym for internationalism, or in the past, even imperialism was given this title. So they're taking the idea of, they want to reduce borders, they want to reduce national identity, they want to reduce national countries having their own specific culture, and they want to just sort of give everyone this vast commercialism, this vast financial capital can flow and human capital can flow, and it's sort of this dream from a technocratic perspective that's pushed very much by Brussels, that's pushed very much by the United Nations, that simply doesn't work when it's involved with humans. And I think that's something that Donald Trump has pinpointed, and I certainly think it's something that Poland is pointing out. They're saying that, no, nationalism is good because this is love for your country and it sustains you as a people. Poland understood this. 123 years, Poland didn't have a nation, but because the people stood together, because they kept their language and their culture for such a long time, generations of time, there was no Poland, that finally after World War I, when Poland returned, they could have their own country again. And this is only because of Polish nationalism. They would have lost it otherwise.
Right. There is also business face to that. The global corporations that are avoiding taxes, that are shifting production to the low-cost countries, right, versus the taking care and for the local producers, local workers, local officials.
Well, exactly. When you're looking at it from a global business perspective, you're not thinking of people in terms of, people and actual human beings. You're thinking in terms of profits and losses, and where can I get the cheapest labor? The cheapest labor, can I get it in Canada? Can I get it in Cambodia or Thailand? So you're making your products for this cheap labor, you're selling it to other places, you're just moving it all around. And they're looking at it from a financial perspective, but they're not looking at it from a human capital perspective. They're not looking at the skills of the workers. They're not looking at the families that are hurt by these practices. And this is something that we saw in the United States very greatly, where a lot of the Midwest, a lot of the factories and the manufacturing base of the United States was gutted, was almost completely collapsed due to these internationalist policies and an agreement we signed called NAFTA, something that Donald Trump actually 30 years ago was speaking out against, and he's working to reform today.
And do you think, in terms of success, how successful could he be? I mean, this is a very ambitious project, and like the odds are that all the finance guys, all the corporations are against actually the renationalization of the world. So to what degree Donald Trump can be successful?
I think Donald Trump can be as successful as he wants to be. He's definitely shown that he's had the ability to do that in business, in entertainment, now in politics. And I think more importantly, he won't be president at some point in the future. After 2024, he'll be out of office. But I think he's planting those seeds in a younger generation of politicians and a younger generation of people. And as they grow up, they're going to remember it.
That brings us to the Independence March in streets of Warsaw, and exactly the same, planting the seeds of the feeling for freedom is being done here in Poland.
And freedom's never going to go away.
You've been here in this Independence March, 250,000 people walking over the street of Warsaw. We had it every year, pretty much the same events, equally peaceful, equally patriotic, yet if you open the BBC or some AP files, you will read that this is nationalistic, very aggressive mob. Why is this? You see one thing on your own eyes, and then you read like the report from different planets.
Well, you know, that's why they call it fake news, right? One thing I think is very interesting about it is, so I came to this Independence March for One American News back in the U.S. that I work for, and we covered it, and I interviewed people there. We recorded the scenes. We saw what was going on, and I noticed that AP, BBC, these other organizations, they're not there. They're not actually there. They don't have a reporter that's in the field observing the event, that's taking part in it, that's seeing who the different people are, and they're just looking at it from as far, you know, maybe looking at it from London, maybe looking at it from New York, and they don't understand. They really don't understand what's going on because they just see these images, and maybe they heard from last year's reporting or some other bad reporting that there's some issue with it, but it's not true. Because when we went there, and we interviewed people, we interviewed families, we interviewed the old nuns, the veterans, some of the young kids, and people were just there. It wasn't really political at all. It wasn't liberal or conservative or communist. It was just patriotic. It was Independence Day. Simple as that.
The thing is that if we saw that in Poland, that there is such a big event, it's misreported in the world media, can we trust them anymore?
Well, this is why there's been such a loss of credibility for many of, we call them mainstream media, or sometimes you can call them legacy media, these platforms, that people are not listening to them anymore because they're not trying to learn the truth about what's going on. They're taking some buzzword that sounds scary or induces fear in the audience, and they're just using it to mislabel and slander, you know, a whole group of people. And the more they do it, the more credibility and the more trust they're going to lose.
But they also don't report the issues that are really important, like the gas deal between the United States and Poland.
Yes.
The liquid natural gas will flow in huge way from the United States to Poland, undermining the position of Russia.
Right, and this is something that, this might be a once-in-a-generation deal that was able to get done between Trump administration, United States, and between Poland. You know, and in the U.S., we're always hearing about Trump and Russia, Trump and Russia. Well, what about Trump and Poland? Because I think the collusion between Trump and Poland on the economy is actually a lot stronger, and it's hurting Russia. But people don't like to hear that because it goes against the narrative.
We have a new ambassador here from the United States, Georgette Mosbacher. Who is she?
So Georgette Mosbacher, I don't know her personally very well, but I know that she's been involved very much in the U.S. She was part of an international organization there. She's also been involved in U.S. business for a long time. So from what I understand is that she's very interested in helping focus on the economic relationship between the U.S. and Poland. And it remains to be seen, but we might find out if she's going to help with a military relationship as well, whether we're going to get some U.S. troops to be stationed at Fort Trump here in Poland, or maybe see some more deals for the military equipment.
Well, this is another important focus why the United States would see that securing Poland by the relatively large American bases will be a good thing for United States.
Well, one thing that I think a lot of Americans haven't heard yet is that Poland has offered to build these bases, and Poland has offered to pay for the construction of these bases. You know, people are used to it being done the old way, where the U.S. just pays for everything, and they're paying through the nose, as Donald Trump will say, for many opportunities for Germany, for South Korea, for Japan, where the U.S. has many bases. But for Poland, the Polish government has actually offered to build that base, and then the U.S. troops could be stationed there. It would cost way less than Germany. The cost of living is far less, and that people would be much more welcoming, I think, of Americans and U.S. soldiers here because they understand they're here for a defense of Poland. And I think number three, of course, it goes back to the Russia situation. Vladimir Putin does not want to see U.S. troops in Poland. That's clearly against everything. It's going to drive him crazy. And so for people to think that Trump and Putin are working some secret deal together, I don't think Putin would like to see that.
Right. This collusion is with Trump and Poland is something
that's
that
the
we
collusion.
Would like to
that's
see.
the real collusion.
Jack Posobiec, thank you very much, sir, for coming to our studio. And that was it for Poland Daily Business tonight.